The aftermath of Hurricane Helene. This is day 6. We're in Fletcher, North Carolina. Here's the tree right there that fell on the house. We got most of the top of it cut off, but this is going to be a little trickier to get the rest of it off. I'm going to need somebody who's a little bit better with a chainsaw. We still don't have power, so this is day 6 without power. We lost power, it would have been Friday of last week at 4 in the morning. So we'll take a little walk. I'll show you a little bit about what's going on in the neighborhood. You can actually probably hear a helicopter. Oh, actually you can see one. I think it's, yeah, right back there. And there's actually another one. I'm hearing 2 helicopters at the same time. So there's we're pretty close to the airport in Asheville. We're about a 10-minute drive away. So, oh yeah, there's 2 helicopters back to back right there. So there's been a ton of helicopter traffic. I'd say the last 3 days that picked up. The first 3 days there was really not much air traffic at all that we saw. Right here is right next to our house, and you can see these were 2 really big trees that came down that blocked the road. Those fell somewhere around 7 a.m., about the same time that tree fell on the house. And I suppose I should mention that the whole reason we don't have power in most of this area is just how many trees are down on lines. So if you can see that those 2 trees are both hanging on those lines. And if you look at my neighbor's house right here, like these, I could reach up and actually like grab those wires. They're so low. So the good news is the cell phone service has improved a little bit. The first, say, 3 days after the storm, I had to walk about a half mile up. It's a pretty steep hill. So I had to walk up the road just so I could get some better cell phone service. I won't say that cell phone service is good right now. It's still very choppy, especially during the day, but in the evening time, I can usually get calls out if I'm sitting out in the front on the front porch or sitting outside. We're gonna walk down the road right now. It's about 100 yards as the crow flies to where this neighborhood that got totally flooded out. But first I'll show you the creek where that was flooded and all that, and we will be able to see here in a second. There's 10 houses that were just totally flooded. I think probably 2 or 3 of them are going to end up being total losses, but we'll see those here in just a second. So right here, we're about to walk over some lines that are down on the ground, which is everywhere. I almost forgot to show you that just because it was, it's just so common. You just get so used to driving over wires now and walking over wires. Where I'm standing right now is about where the flooding came up to, and the flooding went all the way to the front of the house. They got water in their basement up there. So this whole area, this whole road was flooded. The water was flooded all the way up across there, and then over the road. The creek is over here, and this whole hayfield was all water too. And up over the bank here, there's a bridge that you can almost see through there. That was totally underwater. You couldn't even see the railings of that bridge. Right here, that fence, that's my neighbor across the street. His fence got all messed up, so he's gonna have to get that fixed to keep the cattle in so they don't get going out. So right here, this is the actual creek right here. This is what it normally is. I don't even know. It's just like a little trickle coming through there, but you can see it's all mud. I'm standing like in mud, just deep mud. So it's crazy that the creek was just that trickle normally like it is today, 6 days later. But it was actually something like 200, I would say probably 200 yards wide during the storm. It was just crazy. Every home that we're about to see, there's 10 of them, was 100% flooded. So here we are coming over the bridge. You can see all this debris that's accumulated here. Here's the bridge. This whole bridge, including the railings here, was totally underwater. And then walk on the other side of the bridge. Here's the main creek right there. You can just see it's just it's just barely even moving, but it was crazy how much it was rushing. Check this out. Something you probably haven't seen before. This is a whole bunch of tomatoes. They'll probably see some peppers in there too. They flooded down the creek from farms that were up the creek. And there you go. Some more tomatoes for you. That one's actually good. Yeah, I don't know. All right, here we are at the worst of it, really. So there are 4 homes back here, and all of them were 100% flooded. A couple of them might be total losses. There's one back here. It was actually knocked off its foundation. It's not sitting where it's supposed to right now. The others will need everything replaced. Floors, drywall, furniture, appliances, toys, clothing. Yeah, I mean, anything that you can think of, those folks are gonna need to replace it. Stairs, patios, sheds that floated down the creek, campers that floated down the creek. I mean, they're gonna have to replace everything. As we walk up to this next neighborhood, it's a good time for me to thank you. Thank you so much, all of you who donated to this cause. There's links in the profile so you can donate to the folks in this very community, the houses that we're walking by right now. people who have just been devastated and lost everything. In 24 hours, we raised $2,600, which is crazy. And I'm walking down there right now. We're gonna put some money into those folks' hands, some of that very money that you've donated. It's gonna be noisy because there's a helicopter overhead. Someone's running a generator there. A sump pump is running over here, but you'll have to bear with me. If you watch my previous video, this shed right here was actually down the street in that neighbor's house, and it was flipped up on its side. But now got it upright, and they were able to access their tractor and scooters, and actually they had some like gifts for a niece that they were really concerned about, which are okay. The tractor might be okay. Like I said, like things like furniture, you know, this is all going to get replaced. That stuff just got totally soaked in the storm. And when you get those floodwaters, it's not just like clean water running in, it is mud. And you can see it, there's just kind of like mud everywhere lining the neighborhood. This is just a normal thing to see all around town and everywhere we've been, is people with like back windows out, or side windows in this case, or windshields that are smashed. And that's actually pretty lucky when you see what's next. So this part of the neighborhood is a little bit lower ground, and it's just right next to the creek. The creek is out that way. And it obviously flooded all the way out here. You can see that there's just like feet and feet of mud everywhere. This car is a total loss. Like, this is under feet of water. There's just mud caked like inside. It's just so much mud. It's just wild. So yeah, that car is a total loss. There's another one back here. Again, total loss. And these aren't people who made any kind of mistakes preparing for the storm. It wasn't forecasted to have creeks like this flood. We knew the French Broad River was going to flood. We knew that the Swannanoa River was going to flood, and probably historic flooding for both of those. We did not know that creeks like this were going to flood. There wasn't evacuation orders or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, you can see this little creek that's right out there was running all the way up here past me, and then all the way up, like all the way down the street, as far as you can see, was all underwater. Here again, we have a house that was totally underwater, feet of water, and this car was feet of underwater. So again, total loss on that car. It's all full with mud. But there is a lot of good news. So this neighborhood was a lot worse just a couple of days ago. The community's pulled together, neighbors coming down. One big thing is that we needed to help them get rid of all the stuff, like trash, the stuff that had to get out of here. Carpets, furniture, you name it, appliances, stuff that had to get out of here that was sitting on their front yard. We needed to get trailers to trailer that stuff out, and you got to pay to bring that stuff to the dump. So we also have another GoFundMe to raise money just to move stuff out of here that's trash. But the progress is crazy. We've just cleaned up so much. So more good progress right here to show you. So this whole front yard in my last video just a couple of days ago, this was just all stuff. But they're able to get all the trash and junk out of here, and they're able to get the stuff that they could keep, you know, that they could recover. Were able to get that stuff into storage. We got a little something for you just to help you start getting things going. So.
Well, this is so generous.
So some of the common questions that people have been asking us, obviously they ask a lot about getting power. And we've been told that we're going to have power back Friday midnight. They've been telling us that for several days now, and they seem pretty convinced about it. I'm not super convinced, but we're keeping optimistic about that. We're getting a lot of questions about like roads. You know, can you drive around in the area? The answer is, yeah, you can get around most places. Some of the roads will be fully blocked with trees, a handful. There's really not many of those left. Some roads, like one lane, will be closed down because there's big trees still. And just about every road has trees down all around it. They're just they've been cut and pushed off to the side, but you can't drive anywhere without seeing that at this point. And one thing worth mentioning about roads is there's still a lot of stoplights out. So that makes getting around just like really slow and inconvenient. You know, every move you make takes you 2 or 3 times longer than you think it's going to be because of the stoplights being down. We have like constant during the day, there's just a lot of traffic because people, instead of just going to the grocery store 2 miles down the street, getting what they need and coming home, they got to drive all around Creation, like looking for different things. And sometimes roads are blocked and they have to reroute. Sometimes they get to stores, there's lines. They get to gas stations, there's lines, so they drive further. So instead of doing like a 2 mile out, 2 mile back trip to the grocery store, you know, that can end up being a 20-mile trip. But the good news is a lot of those trips just a few days ago were 80, 100, 200 mile round trips.